Hi, I'm Robert Osborne. Thanks so much for joining us. This April, TCM has selected John Wayne as our star of the month. He is, of course, a legend among movie stars, a man whose career spans 6 decades and produced more than 150 films. And we're going to be saluting this Hollywood icon in a way that we've never saluted anyone before. Starting right now, lasting until 10:15 a.m. next Saturday morning, we're going to be showing nothing but John Wayne films. 55 in total, with a few documentaries and a Screen Directors Playhouse episode also mixed in. It's going to be John Wayne at all stages in his career, too. The young movie newcomer in his 20s, John Wayne in his 60s, Wayne underwater fighting a giant squid in the Florida Keys, Wayne fighting Native Americans in Monument Valley, Wayne in a bit part with Barbara Stanwyck. I mean, the whole spectrum. And during the primetime hours this week, I'm going to be joined by a man who's a top authority on John Wayne, who's just written a great new book on the Duke. His name is Scott Eyman. He's an author, film historian, and one of the best biographers that we have today. And the name of his book, just out this month, is John Wayne, The Life and Legend. Real treat to welcome him to this John Wayne Marathon. Welcome, Scott.
Thanks, Bob. It's
Good
great
to have you here.
It's great to be here.
Now, we're going to start with the film that really started John Wayne's film career, the first movie in which he received screen credit. He plays the lead in it, but was only 23 at the time. It's a movie made by the Fox Film Corporation in 1930, and the title is The Big Trail. Now, why is this such an important film? It's fascinating.
Well, Wayne was plucked out of obscurity to star in this huge $2 million epic of Western expansion in a new 70mm process.
It was like that. That was like Cinerama that came later, right?
It was. He was a prop boy in Fox at the time, and Raoul Walsh, the director, saw him striding across the lot carrying a table with matchless ease and grace, and he was smiling. And Walsh liked his smile, liked the way he handled the table. So he said, let's give that kid a screen test. So he passed the screen test, and they signed him up for the munificent sum of $75 to front a great widescreen spectacle of early sound. It was an extremely expensive picture. He was heralded as the new Tom Mix in Fox publicity.
And he's a great-looking guy.
Oh, he's a spectacular-looking guy. And the film opened and promptly closed.
Wow.
Part of the problem, probably the major part of the problem, was that the exhibitors had recently spent a great deal of money rehabbing the theaters for sound in 1927 and 1928. They'd spent millions and millions and millions of dollars for new projectors and screens and speakers behind the screens. And here comes William Fox asking them to once again invest millions and millions of dollars in 70mm projection and wide screens and new speakers, and they weren't allowed to do it. So as a matter of fact, The Big Trail was seen in 70mm in about 2 theaters in the United States, one in New York and one in Los Angeles. Everybody else saw it in 35mm.
So it was a much more ordinary film that way.
A much more ordinary film, and it grossed very well in the 70mm version in New York and LA. The 35mm version basically laid down and died. So John Wayne was 22 years old when he was cast in the picture, and he was a star of tomorrow. At the age of 23, he was a washed-up has-been.
Wow, so he got a lot of the blame for it.
They hung it on him.
Yeah.
They hung it on him. They weren't going to blame Raoul Walsh, who had a great deal of career momentum, great director. Every great director makes a flop now and then. So it was basically hung on this handsome young kid.
So how do you think this film rates today?
Walsh really recreates the sound, the feel, the look of the pioneer experience. It's almost like Matthew Brady photographs come to life of the Trek West.
So if it had been a success, then he would have been set for life.
He would have been set for life.
He wouldn't have had this long career he had in V Pictures and all of that.
They had already announced 2 more Westerns for him before The Big Trail opened up. They were all, the studio was convinced it was going to be a huge, huge hit. And he was going to be a huge star. And they were right, but their timing was a little off.
Yeah, a few years.
By 10 years,
It's a few years, yes. So let's see the film. Here it is from 1930. Directed by Raoul Walsh, also with Tyrone Power Sr., the father of the great movie idol of the 30s and 40s, Jerome Power. Here's John Wayne in The Big Trail.